Thank you for joining us. Though small in numbers, the Port Elizabeth Hindu community is big at heart. They have held tenaciously onto their roots and have done incredibly well in preserving Hindu Dharma. The Sadhana team headed to the Windy City recently and found the infectious friendliness of the people apparent at the Hindu Serva Samaj that celebrates its 70th anniversary this year.
The history of our Indian community in Port Elizabeth started late 1800s and went into the early 1900s. At that stage, very few families migrated from different parts of Africa and India. Some came into Zimbabwe, some traveled by road from Zimbabwe right down to Port Elizabeth. We have history that records that people have walked on foot from Zimbabwe to Lorenzo Marques, from Lorenzo Marques down to different parts of South Africa. From that point onwards, what had happened, obviously the Group Areas Act came into play, and that resulted in communities now having to come through to different residential areas, Malabar being allocated for Hindu people. So that happened in 1969. At that stage, the community development, which was the organization responsible for allocation of property, etc., then allocated land to the different religious groupings in Port Elizabeth. And this particular property was then procured by our Hindu community and was earmarked specifically for the erection of a temple.
I've become part of the secretariat, and it's taught me organizational skills which I'd never been exposed to in having such a big event like the installation of the Ramparivar Murtis. This has helped and enlightened the youth to bring them to want to come and ask more, learn more, and a place where we can all come and worship.
And Swami Vivekananda, like Uttishta Jagrata Prapta Varan Nibodhe. So like you Utho Jago and Dhesa Prapta Sudhi Mandya Raho. Arise, awake and do your work. And for my work is the Dharma must be on highest level. So I try my best. I tell everyone that Hindu Dharma is like whole full package of happiness. And every single answer, like whether it's come about like health, go to the Vedas, or to talk about music, go to the Samvedas, like Sare, Gama, Pada, Nisa, all came from the Samvedas. So everything is there.
I think that the fact that we a relatively small community, from childhood days, we were brought up in that particular way, that a community is one. And that oneness has been propagated time and time again from our parents, from our teachers that were here prior to our Guruji and with this Guruji here as well. Same attitude, same mindset, that we all are one. Despite the fact that we have a number of temples in our community, we're always sharing venues, we're always participating in each other's activities. And that is the thing that brings us together, that common identity, knowing full well that we're all spiritual beings and there's no distinction between spirituality along any lines. We are one. Ultimately, the Creator is one. So we are all children of God. We may find different paths to get to the same goal, but ultimately we are all one.
Keep an eye out on Sadhana for more from Port Elizabeth in the coming weeks. Follow us on Twitter @Sadhana on 3 and also catch us on Facebook. We hope you've enjoyed our lineup today, the food for the palate and food for our soul. Until next week, keep up your sadhana. Om.